Society often sees shyness as a weakness and a disadvantage. We've been told as early as kindergarten to be go-getters. Sayings like, the early bird catches the worm, are taught to us by our teachers and parents. The world moves quickly and everyone tries keeping up with the race to the top of the mountain. And in a race, the fastest ones will get the favor of the spectators. They'll get the most attention and they'll get praised for beating everyone at the game. But then, when it comes to the shy ones, people like me or you, we tend to get left behind. From the fast players to the spectators, we get criticized for not keeping up, for not playing the game in the way they want. A lot of the time, we didn't even choose to be in a race. Sometimes, we might not know that we are in a race. While it is true that the faster you are at a race, the more chances you are at crossing the finish line, not everything has to be a race. Maybe nothing, it turns out, is a race. And people make things into one to have an ideal. And while having ideals is not inherently bad, it can be used as a beating stick to make others feel worthless. It's dangled in front of you like a cruel game of piñata. In a race, the person who comes first is who matters the most. I'd argue the second and third place are just consolation prizes for effort. I feel like this almost every day. I try my best to do better, and some days I feel good because of what I accomplish, no matter how trivial. Because I'm a shy and anxious person, small steps feel like big leaps forward. Managing to send out an email to job applications takes a lot from me. Acquiring a skill you've tried and failed to do millions of times, even as simple as plucking the strings of a guitar, it takes a lot. Stepping outside without wearing headphones is an achievement in itself because I can't stand the sound of people most days. Being able to sit still without getting the urge to sweep the floor for the 5th time in a row because of a strand of hair is a small win. I don't turn on the lights in my room most nights because even with how orderly I make everything, it still feels like visual noise. I like the darkness because it calms me. I don't know a lot of people in my personal life who feel that way. Maybe they choose to keep it to themselves. Nonetheless, it still makes me feel lonely sometimes that little things drain me so easily. And with all the negative things that I've talked about, there are things that make shyness a valuable strength. Shyness grounds you. It keeps you from easily getting swept away by the tides of life. It may even be a form of confidence, ironically. Which is why I love Ami Mizuno. She is a soldier of love and intellect. There is an article that I found written by a person just referring to themselves as B, where they talk about how Ami Mizuno or Sailor Mercury is autistic coded. She writes, Ami is unbelievably autistic. She definitely falls into what most people think of as the autistic savant category. Although that term actually usually refers to people with mental deficiencies who are exceptionally talented in one category, and savant doesn't even have to be autistic people. It can apply to people with average or above average IQ though, and that's what some people think of when they think of the term. An autistic person who's exceptionally smart. That's Ami. She is rumored to have an IQ of 300 and her peers regard her as being smart, but snobbish. In reality, of course, Ami isn't a snob. She's just desperately shy and awkward. Sailor Mercury's strength as a sailor soldier does not come from the form of brute force or strong offenses. Her strength comes from the form of strategy and accuracy. She calculates her enemy's pattern of movements and makes decisions accordingly. In episode 4 of the 6-part opening of the final season of Sailor Moon, Sailor Mercury and Sailor Uranus team up to defeat Nehelenia. Nehelenia's powers are based on illusions. Sailor Uranus's way of fighting is based on stealth and strong offenses, which does not favor her in the long run. As I've said before, Mercury's strength comes from her strategizing. She even comments on herself that she can't keep up with Uranus because of how fast she is. This causes a bit of tension between the two of them. Uranus is a fighter who likes taking action head-on, and Mercury is a statistician who wants to avoid miscalculations. In between shots, we see flashbacks of Ami as a child, providing a game plan for her classmates' game of basketball. They win, and Ami, of course, gets praised for her brilliant tactics. To defeat Nehelenia, Sailor Mercury takes her time to analyze her enemy and even endures Nehelenia's attacks. Once she figured it out, they shatter the illusion. Not only does Ami possess brilliant intellect, she also is very kind and empathetic. In the 11th episode of Sailor Moon Supers, she forms a connection with Natsumi, a widow who is trying to fix her dead husband's car. B writes in her essay, "This is more hyper-empathy than special interests, but it's worth noting. She goes all in for this woman she barely knows and immediately teaches her a bunch of things about mechanic processes to help. Of course, shyness does have its downsides too. In Ami's case, her shyness prevents her from standing her ground. Mind you, that is not without lack of trying. She just wants to be fair towards other people, but at the cost of herself." In episode 8 of Sailor Moon S, the episode begins with the school's vice principal telling Ami to focus on her studies. Since she is the smartest student they have, they expect a lot from her. He also asks her not to help the other students who are not as academically competent as her, as they might just drag her down. Taken aback by his words, Ami tries to reason with him but gets dismissed. Later, Mamoru sees her sitting alone and asks her what's wrong. Ami is feeling down about the fact that studying is all that people expect her to do, that it's all she has going for her. She doubts that becoming a doctor is the right dream for her. She even implies that she's insecure about herself because she can't match Usagi. In her mind, Usagi shines brighter than her. Mamoru reassures her by lightening the tension by making Ami laugh. I love this scene because Mamoru doesn't forcibly tell her that she is enough. Instead, he listens to her and reassures that she shines just as bright in her own way. Later, she goes for a swim and Michiru notices her. She challenges Ami in a race. They both are excellent swimmers. It makes sense since their powers as sailor soldiers are water-based, and both are evenly matched. Ami, not wanting to take pride in her skills, slows down at the last second and ties with Michiru. Michiru notices and says in a frank but quite mean way that she didn't need to slow down to make her feel better. Ami tries to apologize but runs out of the pool. Haruka then says to a shocked Michiru that Ami is the type of person who lacks confidence in herself and just wants to be friends. I think we've all been in this situation, right? I resonate with Ami because I share a lot of her tendencies, especially when I was younger. When you're very competent at a skill or gifted at a talent, people tend to get intimidated or turned off because they aren't as good as you. That in turn makes you dim your light and makes you prone to over-apologizing and overcompensating just so people won't run away from you. This makes you feel like being confident in your skill is wrong because it drives people away. She arrives at the group study session and immediately everyone flocks to her for help. Usagi, having overheard the conversation between Ami and the vice principal earlier, says to the others that Ami should focus on her own studies. Ami tries to say that it's okay, but Usagi brushes her off, saying that her studies are more important than anything else. Ami pretends away her sadness and disappointment by smiling. She excuses herself and she goes home. Usagi, realizing she might have offended Ami, follows her. On her way, Haruka stops by and asks her to meet in the pool. Michiru wants a rematch. When she gets there, Michiru tells her not to hold back. They race and still are evenly matched. They tie again. With this, Michiru tells Ami how good it feels to not hold back and how being confident in oneself is good. After the Monster of the Week sequence, Usagi apologizes to Ami for being insensitive towards her feelings. Ami reassures her that it was all good. Side note, this episode also shows why I love Usagi so much. She isn't as academically smart as Ami, far from it. But she is emotionally smart and will prioritize her friends' well-being when needed. This is a good episode for people to watch when they feel like dimming themselves down, so others can shine brighter. It isn't good for oneself to do that in the long run. Shyness can hold us back, but if we don't let that get in our way, we'll do things we never would have thought was possible. Michiru, even with her bluntness that borderlines on meanness, was trying to teach Ami the value of not holding back when faced with a worthy opponent or challenge. As shy people, we owe it to ourselves to be kinder towards ourselves. When we judge ourselves too harshly for not playing the game other people say how it's supposed to be played, just remember that we don't have to. We can choose to find confidence in our shyness. We need more people who are analytical and strategic with their choices. If everyone was a go-getter who raced their lives away without thinking twice, I think everyone would burn out. Speaking as a shy introvert, I really hope that this video made you feel seen. I actually wrote the script for this video quite a long time ago, but again, I was so shy and so unconfident and full of anxiety that people would judge me. And I'm not the best at this sort of thing, admittedly. However, I'm not going to improve unless I actually do the thing that I want to do. Just remember that minor improvements are still improvements, and one step a day, sometimes that's enough. You're still moving forward, so that's all that matters, really. You don't need to completely change who you are. I mean, you can, but it's difficult. So just find the strength in your shyness. And with that, thank you for watching. See ya.